You're listening to The Fly Guy Show. They do everything on the fly and in such a fly manner. Stay tuned for economic uplift. It's all about the money. Now for our host, Mr. Burt Bergen and DJ Seko Varner. Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
After all that Bacardi. All right. Glad to have everyone on call tonight. This is the Fly Guy Show. Everything typically happens on a 5-minute text message, 5-minute phone call. Hey, look, let's do a show. We got Brother Shabazz out of Atlanta, Elementary Genocide. Did I get that right, brother?
Absolutely.
And that's part 1 and 2.
Yeah, Elementary Genocide 1 is called the School to Prison Pipeline. Elementary Genocide 2 is called the Board of Education versus the Board of Incarceration. And we currently get ready to push out 3 momentarily, and that's called Elementary Academic Holocaust.
That is awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to be your host for the evening. My name is Burt Bergen. We have Fly Girl Sheena Boston. She's going to be our co-host.
Hello.
And then we've got Seko Varner. He's actually our other fly guy. He put this all together. Well, we go ahead and get started. So, Brother Shabazz, what was the inspiration? What was happening in your life at the time when you decided to film part 1 of Elementary Genocide?
Well, in order to give you the backstory on me, I'm from New York. I'm from Harlem, and like many of my peers, I ended up on the wrong side of the law, and I found myself behind enemy lines, and I did 6 years incarcerated. And when I was incarcerated, I didn't even have a GED. I got my GED within 30 days. I wound up getting sentenced to 6 years, and I went to college. And I graduated 8 days before I got released. And I graduated in the top 10% of my class. And when I came out, that's when the big reflection happened, where I reflected on my life and I understood that I was smart, highly intelligent. I was just making the wrong mistakes. And everything that I imagined became possible through education. And I've seen the impact it had while I was in there because of the individual I was teaching. I was teaching adult basic education. I started teaching people how to get their GED, started prepping people for college. And I knew and understand that those that had a college education, there was a lower recidivism rate. In New York City during that time, 75% of the inmates came from 7 neighborhoods. And then when you look at the reading level of these individuals, you see the disparity there. So when I came out, I started out as a hip-hop journalist, and I was writing for The Sword, Vibe, XXL, and a lot of pretty much every urban-driven magazine. Writing movie scripts. I shot a short movie. I won an apprenticeship with Tyler Perry Studio. I went on to work on 4 films with Tyler Perry, and then I wanted to do a documentary. I wanted to do something that was near and dear to my heart. I wanted to do something that I knew would bring about a social change and that would resonate with our people. And that's when I came up with the concept of Elementary Genocide. And I always go back to our great grandmaster teachers, and one of them is Marcus Garvey. And one of the things that he said was that, you know, intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. And I never wanted to be a burden for my people.
Wow, that's awesome. So it seems like things happen really fast, brother. You said you went from incarceration. That was before you got your diploma at GED. You got your college degree while incarcerated, and then when you got out, it sounds like things started to happen really fast. You said you did some things with Tyler Perry. How did you wrote for The Source? How did those things materialize?
Everything didn't happen that fast. It didn't happen that fast. Now, I got out from incarceration in January of 2000. And things really started picking up in 2002 when I moved to Atlanta. And pretty much is my grind, you know, my consistency. And I knew that I didn't want to be a corporate slave. I didn't want to work for nobody else. You know, I knew that with the level of education that I acquired, I probably could get a good paying job and things like that. Because I tell people all the time that your desk is your 40 acres and your computer is your mule. You know, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be self-sufficient, an entrepreneur, and pretty much work for myself. So the last 12 years, I've been working for myself. I've run several different companies, and I'm in the business of employing our people.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, it's been a while since I've watched the first film. I don't think I've watched the second one, but I definitely got to make that happen. Should have watched it before I got on the call with you. It would have made it look a little better, but
send me a link when we get offline, and I'll send you where you can screen it live.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Download it, screen it online.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. So for those that are listening, this will be my last, and let my other two co-hosts chime in. For those that are listening, what are some of the things that you found when you were doing the research, getting ready to present the film, as it in regards to the school to prison pipeline? What our boys and girls, but especially our boys, are facing behind those walls?
When I did the initial documentary, I started my research in 2010. I didn't put out the documentary until 2013. So it was a strenuous process. I was doing a lot of other things, and a lot of research went into it. And what I found out during the first documentary is that the government and the school system look at the 3rd and 4th grade reading level to determine how many prisons they're going to build in the next 10 to 15 years. Because if you're not reading on grade level, there's 75% chance you're going to end up in jail. They look at these statistics and they know how many prisons to build in the next 10 to 15 years, and these prisons are sold to private prisons. Wow. When I did that, put the documentary out, traveled all around the country, you know, I listened to what the people say, you know, so afterwards the people would come up to me, magnificent documentary, my brother. However, you focus a lot on boys and not on girls. So I went and did some research, and I found out within the last 30 years, there has been an 800% increase in the arrest rate of females. So
wow.
That more in the second documentary. Another thing that I found out is that for black boys, they are suspended and arrested at three to 4 times more than their white counterparts. When it comes to females, it's 6 times. So there is a big difference, and that needed to be talked about. So I highlighted that in the second one, and also what I did was I went back to the landmark ruling of Brown versus Board of Education, the 1954 landmark ruling, and we asked the proverbial question: has integration did us more harm than good? And we know it did us more harm. And so we went from there and brought it all the way up into today's time.
I tell you what, brother, wow, you definitely said some things that resonate with myself personally. I know my son, I kid you not, I can't make this up. He was getting ready for one of the standards of learning tests, and he's always been a strong reader. Mm-hmm. And I had introduced him to Dr. Kunjufu's work, Raising Black Boys. Yeah. And you know, it talks about some of the things you talked about in your findings and your research, that in the 4th grade they knew some things. I shared that with my son when he was in the 4th grade, getting ready to take this SOL test. They call them SOLs. And do you know, he scored perfect, 600 out of 600 on the reading portion of the exam. So Sheena Boston, you want to chime in, Queen?
Yes. My question is, what are some of the things that we can be doing now as parents, aunties, uncles right now with the children to help them, one. And then 2, as community leaders, what are some of the things, some of the programs that we should be looking to develop and fund to help with this situation?
I think one of the things that we have to realize as parents is that you can't legislate your child to do his homework. So we shouldn't look to 1600 Pennsylvania Street for no legislation to pass. I'll do their homework. I think parents have to be more proactive in their kids' lives, and I say this time and time again. I know people are tired of me saying this, but school does not begin at 8 o'clock when the bell rings, and it doesn't end at 3 p.m. when they dismiss from school. They need to go to school, but after they come from school, the parents need to start educating them. You know, and for those that are in a position, they need to homeschool. Statistically, it shows that those that are homeschool have a higher achievement rate than those that are not. So I think that's for the parents. And the second question was, what type of program? We need to have rites of passage programs for young men and for young women. We need to start mentorships. And another thing that we need to do, because education is the great equalizer, but we got to understand when we deal with education, we dealing with content and intent. Content is what you teach, and intent is how you teach it. Now, what we got to teach these kids is, yes, you get this education, but it's only useful if you take it and you apply it back into your community. So don't get no education and run off to one of these corporations and don't uplift your community. If you get a good education and your education does not teach you how to take that and apply that to your community and move your race forward, then it's just self-gratification. It's really not an education. And that's what we have to do. We have to teach our children how to become entrepreneurs, how to think outside the box, and how to be critical thinkers. Real quickly, I'm going to talk about the Indiegogo campaign, and then we can resume and ask questions. Now, what I want to tell people is that each of these documentaries I self-funded out of my pocket, and I don't accept money from third-party or corporate sponsors because I don't want the narrative to be changed. These documentaries are very, very expensive, and there comes a time, where, certain things you want to do, and you're like, oh, should I do the documentary? So I went ahead and did a documentary, and with each documentary, you can see that the production value is getting better and better. So there's a lot of things that I wanted to do with the documentary that requires money. So we're trying to raise $10,000, which is not a lot of money because I done put twice as much as that into part 3. Or you can get a signed movie poster. You can even get me on Skype, and we could talk about, documentary filmmaking or anything like that. So we have a lot of good perks. We're not just asking you for your money. You actually get something in return, and it's helping, and you're contributing to the solution.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And I personally appreciate the fact that to control the narrative, things that we create as creators, that we control the narrative, because we've been used to a certain narrative for so long. We've been used to looking at things through a certain lens for so long, and it's so important that at some point the lion tells the story about the hunt.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And let me say this, right? Don't think them folks ain't come to me already and ask me, they didn't blatantly come out with it. Right. They said, you see that you're doing a campaign and you're in a position to help you fund. I told them, no, sir, that's not my fault. No,
right.
Maybe if I would have donated 5 minutes of my time to speaking about that, I probably would have had the funding, but that's not my fight. I don't have
brother.
I don't have nothing against that, but I'm not fighting that fight.
Hey, Brother Shabazz, and look, you don't even have to say it. I already know what fight they try to get you to put in the
Well, that's not my fight. you know. But you know, you got certain things like you got to leave that alone. You know what I mean? Like you can't cross wires. This ain't got nothing to do with that. You know, when they see you as a black melanated individual, and that's what it is.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I don't make this campaign now. Nah, I'm just joking.
No, we have to get to the point that when we see someone producing excellence, that we will back that person in our community so that our creative people can continue to create things that are from our point of view. Because right now, our point of view is being dictated to us. And, you know, so we have to put our thoughts out into the, I guess, marketplace.
Yeah, it was the time. Look, what, 3 weeks, $1,300. It was the time I spent $1,300 in the club in one night.
Wow.
Long gone though. You get older. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, before I was old and wise, I was young and stupid, you know, and I'm just trying to, you know, raise the vibrational pitch of our people so that they ain't got to be young and stupid and don't make the same mistakes I made. You know?
Absolutely. Do you find that there is a disconnect between adults and teens? Do you find that there's a disconnect? And if there is, how do we bridge? You know, we talk about elementary genocide. We talk about a lot of things having to do with our youth, but we could look at them as the fruit. How does the tree re-bridge that relationship with the fruit?
You know what? I think there is a disconnect, but something like that, you can't make it inclusive. Like, there's not a disconnect all the way around. You know, I take myself for instance, right? Me and my son have beautiful relationships. Friends and his kids, they're able to relate to me. And I understand them, even with this generation, you know, despite a lot of the stuff. Now, I don't agree with all that stuff, but I understand it. I understand where it comes from. They're young. They're going to make mistakes, you know, but it's up to us to teach them. You know, the shit I used to do, I don't know about the shit on here, but the stuff I used to do, man, listen, you know, so I look at a lot of stuff that, like, you know, these kids doing, I'd be like, yeah, that's bad, but what I was doing was bad. And I know that if I have those redeeming qualities, they do too. You know what I mean? So you just don't throw them away. So I do think there's a disconnect. And then another thing is, it's what type of cloth you cut from. You know, I come from the street. You know what I mean? I've been there. I've been in the mud. So no matter what, how much money or notoriety I get, I know what it's like. You know what I mean? I never turn my back on that. You know, I don't regret nothing I did in the past or nothing like that. It made me who I am, and I'm proud of that. You know, I'm an alpha man.
Right. Good stuff. It looked like Seko had a question. He wanted to know, how does the 5%er nation influence your work with elementary genocide?
Oh, the 5%. Oh, I'm heavily influenced by the 5%. I became a part of the Nation of Gods and Earths when I was 13 years old, and I'm gonna tell y'all my age. I'm 46 now, so you can do the math. And, you know, just the studying, you know, knowing your history and different things like that. So that's the foundation I stand on, and that's my roots. So I think that has a lot to do with the success of who I am as a person and how I'm unapologetic in what I say, and I don't care who don't like it. You know, I don't know if y'all was in that era, but the era that I came up with the 5%, we told the truth regardless of whom or what, and we still doing that today.
Right.
So I think it has a big influence on the message that I give.
Question: how do we make that level of study and education more prolific within our community because you have communities like the Asian community where the parents will pay for additional tutors. They will pay for the children to go to additional programs and really make those levels of study important. How do we make those levels of study, expand them within our community, so we have more young people that take pride in knowing their history? They take pride in the number of rare books that they have read and things like that.
I'll just use an example of, he was just asking me about the 5% and the influence that we had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the 5%, we had rallies and we built and we discussed what was going on. We learned our lessons and our history, and it wasn't confined to 4 walls or a classroom. We learned in the parks, we taught on the rooftops, on the street corners, and I think that's what we need to do. We communal people, and you mentioned about Asians and how they were paid to have extra tutoring for their kids and stuff like that. Well, you don't have to pay. You know what I mean? We can all have a cooperative where we teach each other's kids. If you're proficient in math and I'm proficient in English, you teach the math, I teach the English. It's a trade-off. So
okay.
we need to get back to that, and everybody could benefit, whether you have the money to pay or not. Now everything ain't free, because freedom ain't free, but there's a way. There was a time that we did it. Listen to this, right? After the Civil War and slavery was abolished, they went back to those former slaves and they told them that we need you to till the land and we'll pay you, the sharecropping stuff, right? And they had nowhere to go, no way to earn money, and they told them, like, okay, we'll work, we'll till the land, and this is what you pay, and we'll do that, but we need you to build the school right. We need to build the school right here. And that's how black schools got started. So when we talk about school choices, blacks was the first one to come up with school choices. When you talk about collective bargaining, we was the first one to come up with collective bargaining. That was a bargain. We'll work, we'll till the land, you pay us, but we're going to build a school right here because our kids need to be educated. And that's how important education was. When you look at, in the 1800s, that Carter G. Woodson, who was the son of a slave, and he worked in coal mines of West Virginia. He didn't go to high school until he was 20 years old, right? And he graduated, and then he got his master's degree within 2 years and got his doctorate. He did his coursework to get his PhD in 1 year from Harvard. He knew that education was the great equalizer. Then you have Mary Bethune, who in 1875, she worked in the tobacco fields of South Carolina. She was one of 17 children that went to school. So out of 17 children, she was the only one. Her parents knew that out of all of these children, one of them got to make it. And she was the one that was designated to make it. And what she went on to do was to open up her own school as well as a hospital. And then you have Benjamin E. Mays. He worked the tobacco fields of South Carolina as well. And he excelled extremely well, and he is known as the great schoolmaster. And he was a top advisor to Martin Luther King. He was either born to slaves or born to former slaves, and they knew the importance of education. And what we're dealing with today, just imagine what they had to deal with. But they knew how important education was. They knew it was the great equalizer. And not only that, the most important thing was they didn't get education for it to be self-gratifying for themselves. They did it to uplift and raise their community. That's why, 200 years later, we're talking about them right now on this podcast. So that's how we have to think in terms of, we have to set a precedent and solidify our legacy. The Europeans, they think 7 generations in advance. We think what we gonna wear to the club on Fridays. We got to get out of that.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it is. I won't say the lack of education, but we can speak on, talk about Carter G. Woodson. You talk about the Europeans thinking 7 generations ahead, and we thinking about what we're gonna do at the club. I think that really speaks to the miseducation that's taking place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not teaching us how to think, So I definitely resonates. Definitely all resonates. And so it really brings full circle. You talking about being unapologetic. I mean, we can't move the needle for ourselves or for the community if we're not unapologetic about what we stand for, what we believe in, and what we're willing to do. Speak a little bit more about what that means to you, being unapologetic.
Being unapologetic is simply, you don't scratch where you don't itch, and you ain't tap dancing and cooning for the open enemy, and you are race first, no matter what your sexual preferences, your political ideology, is always race first. That's what being unapologetic is. And knowing your past, Sankofa, going back to your past in order to move forward. And one thing I like to tell people, right, we got to support those that are unapologetic. And I'll give you a case in point, Colin Kaepernick. I'm not going to sit here and rehash the situation. If anybody don't know, you must be living under a rock. But he stood up for black people. When it wasn't popular, he stand to lose millions of dollars of endorsement. And if this man doesn't get signed to a team and we don't boycott the NFL, then you can forget about anybody else probably that's going to stand up and become a social justice warrior and speak out for black people. So we got to stand behind that man, because, when you speak this type of truth, there ain't no turning back. Like, I can't go get a job tomorrow. If I wanted to, I can't go get a regular job tomorrow. All they're going to do is Google my name and say, nope. That's the slave that got away. That's how they look at me. He's the slave that got away. You know what I mean? Rebellious one. You don't want him in this house. Keep him in the field.
All right. Well, we got about 5 minutes left for the pod. Close. We want to give you some nuggets, 2-3 nuggets that you can give ourselves, myself, Sheena, our co-host, and Seko, and the community that'll be viewing this and listening to this podcast. 3 nuggets that they can take away, implement.
I gave you all my nuggets, man. Y'all want 3 more? All right, 3 more.
3 more nuggets. 3 more nuggets.
Okay. All right. I'll just rehash some of the things I spoke about earlier. And one of the things I told them is that they will treat you like a child and will punish you like an adult. That's one of the nuggets. You got to learn that they'll treat you like a child, but they don't look at you really as a child. That's why you had Jamal Rice that was 12 years old, and they said they thought he was an adult, and they gunned him down in the streets. So that's one of the jewels, right? Another one is, okay, when you look at other communities, you have within the Asian and white community, the dollar circulates in the community. In the black community, the dollar only circulates 6 times before it leaves the community. We have to stop that. Like, I did a comprehensive study about 2 months ago where all my money went. 65% of my money went to black businesses. And I wish it was higher, but, certain things are beyond my control. When you got to pay the rent, or if you got to pay your T-Mobile bill, or for me, life insurance, it's probably with people that don't have melanated skin. So I'm working on that. I just found out that the oldest life insurance company is actually here in Atlanta, and it was run by a black man. I found out that last week, so I'm going to be making a switch. So we have to do that. Keep the money circulating in the community. All right, that's number 2. And number 3 is Elijah Muhammad. He said that there's 3 things that the open enemy and the oppressor will never teach you. And that's the science of warfare, business, mating. Those are the 3 things that the open enemy will never teach you. And you got to really understand that. When you're talking about the science of warfare, ain't nobody going to teach you how to fight against them. Business, knowing the importance of black love and family and what that whole dynamic means. So those are the 3 jewels. I got a couple of more, but
okay,
left.
Well, we gonna definitely bring you back, brother. Thank you so much for your time, and make sure we support the Indiegogo, indiegogo.com/Elementary Genocide 3. Sheena Boston, why don't you go ahead and close us out? We probably got 30 seconds.
I want to again say, everyone, please go and support the Indiegogo so our brothers can continue to make great documentaries. And we have to come together and start educating our children so that they can be able to create the community we want to see in the future.
Good stuff. Everyone wants to be on a winning team. Thank you, brother Shabazz. Elementary Genocide 3. Check it out.
Yes.
All right. Peace and black power.
All right.
Yes, sir.